Hey everyone, this is Heidi, and this week I'd like to talk about communication. A lot of times in the asexual community, and not even outside of the asexual community, a lot of us have this stereotype that we face that we're socially awkward, and to some degree I know I am, but I don't think this is because I'm asexual, and I think that actually a lot of people nowadays are socially awkward because there's a lot of things that people talk about that quote unquote limit our ability to communicate with each other. People say that we're not good at interpersonal relationships because we're always online, or people say things like a lack of face-to-face communication breaks down communication, period. But there's two sides of the coin to that, because I know that studies show that the internet increased literacy, that having cell phones was able to connect a lot of people who couldn't be connected before. I know that I'm glad that I can talk to my family by a cell phone and email, because sometimes talking to them in person makes me feel strangled. But there is that problem about communication and relating to others, and how communication helps you relate to others. So, I guess that what I'm trying to say is that I think that in today's society, we have a lot of things talking about how to communicate, how to fix communication. You have books that I still don't know why people trust them, like Women Are From Venus, Men Are From Mars, that talk about the purported binary differences between sexes that regards a sort of translation between the society's two accepted genders, which, we all know there's more. But I think that the problem with that is that we assume with society talks about communication as a specific thing when there's a whole bunch of different ways to communicate that are acceptable. And I think that figuring out what it is the best for you. Like, I know, for example, I text people a lot on my cell phone because my phone does not pick up voicemail, my phone does not pick up missed calls. It's really dumb, but if you want to get in contact with me, the text is the best thing to do. Then there's the question of extroverted people versus introverted people, and extroverted people might be the ones who can spontaneously do well in an environment that requires spontaneous discussion topics, but introverted people are much better at writing things down and getting their thoughts out that way. I think that there's a lot to communication that many people don't know and accept, and in fact, I think it's kind of ironic because as far as discussing communication goes, how much do we actually talk to each other about it? How much do we actually open up a discussion and say, let's figure out communication? Because I don't think a lot of people do. And so communicating about communicating is important, because how else are you supposed to figure out how to talk to people, what ways to make things work? I don't understand, and I think that's why a lot of people who complain about relationships and then they don't communicate, I'm like, well, obviously there's a problem here. So that's my spiel. It's just that there's so many people who have come to me asking me for advice on communicating, and my sister, my mom, some other of my siblings, friends, and I'm like, why don't you talk about it? I'm glad that you're talking to me about it, but the fact that you weren't talking to this other person that you want to communicate with, shouldn't you be doing that? So bit of a rambling rant, but so open those lines of communication, and most of all, I think that everyone should, figure out what works best for them, even if it means exploring a little bit. So keep that in mind. See you next week.